Hello and welcome to the British Explorer. Today we have a spine-tingling story for your listening pleasure. I'm talking about the giant spider of the Ukraine. You will be listening to a story in regards to a spine-tingling yet scary entity that seems to slink its way into the lift shaft and drains the blood of its victims. So, welcome. Sit back, relax with your favourite drink, and let's begin. The following creepy tale has been buzzing around the internet for years and has also appeared in various tabloids in Europe, but it has never been reported in the British or American press. In the summer of the year 1990, the police in Russia found a resident in a block of flats in the Ukraine area, dead on the floor of an elevator. The man had 2 holes in the side of his neck, which was badly bruised, yellow and blue. At the post-mortem, the coroner discovered that the man in the elevator had died through shock and loss of blood. About 1.5 litres of blood were missing. Yet there had been no bloodstains in the elevator. It was as if a vampire had sucked the blood out of the dead man. But the Russian police couldn't accept that outlandish explanation. A month later, the police were called to the same block of flats because a girl of 13 was trapped in the elevator, which was stuck between the 4th and 5th floor. Residents heard the girl screaming frantically, and when the police arrived, with 3 members of the local fire service, and gained access to the elevator, they found the girl lying on the floor of the elevator. The girl was dead, and 2 small puncture marks were later found on the girl's left breast, which was heavily bruised. The residents refused to use the faulty elevator and were convinced that a vampire was at large in the block of flats. The police started to play down as the seemingly unsolvable deaths, and one former KGB propaganda minister named Leonid Kyiv suggested that the girl had died after injecting heroin. But the dead girl's parents threatened to sue the official because their daughter had never taken drugs, and no syringe was found in the elevator at all. To get to the bottom of the matter, a Russian detective and a sergeant entered the lift and rode it continually up and down. The 2 men were armed with pistols and carried flashlights and 2-way radios. 3 days later, however, the lift was travelling upwards when it halted in between the 5th and 6th floors of the building. The lights went out, so the men switched on their torches and 2-way radios to alert their colleagues who were playing cards in a police van in the street below. The 2 trapped men waited, perhaps wondering if some ghostly vampire was about to materialize. There was a long silence for about 3 minutes. Then they heard something scuttling above their heads. Something was moving along the roof of the elevator. The detective noticed a black square, almost a foot across, set in the roof of the elevator where an access panel had come away. The lift was so old that the panel had probably fallen off because of rust. The detective shone his torch through the square hole in the roof, and the beam from his torch lit up the lift shaft above, and the steel cables supporting the lift. Something peered through that hole that made the detective's blood run cold. A small, black, hairy head, the size of an orange, with a bunch of black, gleaming eyes, the size of grapes, looked in at him. The sergeant was terrified by the freakish-looking animal and raised his Beretta and aimed it at the thing. But the detective calmly ordered him not to fire yet. "What is it?" said the petrified police sergeant, trembling and almost dropping his torch with nerves. "Turn your torch off," the detective said to the sergeant. "What? No way, sir," the sergeant protested, sweating heavily. "That thing doesn't like light," said the detective. "You keep your torch on, then I'll turn mine off. Don't make any sudden moves until the men downstairs to stand by." The detective switched off his light and watched the thing slide further into the lift. Suddenly, the sergeant's nerves got the better of him, because he had 3 specific phobias: fear of the dark, fear of enclosed spaces, and arachnophobia, a fear of spiders. And that horrible thing hanging through the hole in the ceiling looked like an overgrown spider. So the sergeant freaked out and dropped his torch, and his nerves cost him his life. The torch hit the floor and smashed. Before the detective could switch on his torch, the enormous, hairy black spider dropped into the lift with lightning agility and bit out at the only thing in the lift that was moving excitedly. The spider bit the unfortunate sergeant's face and hung on as it drew out his blood. The detective switched on his torch and saw the whole nightmarish drama. The sergeant was screaming, and the spider was like something from another planet. Its body was the size of a Jack Russell dog, and its 6 hairy legs were almost 3 feet long. The freak insect's mouthparts were embedded into the sergeant's face, and as it sucked out his blood, the spider's body turned red. The detective took aim and shot twice at the spider. The first shot missed, and the second bullet blasted one of the spider's legs off. But when the bullet ricocheted off the wall, it bounced back and smashed the torch bulb. The lift was once again in total darkness. The sergeant stopped screaming, and his body hit the floor with a thump. And the detective could feel the bristly hairs on the insect brush against him as the huge spider ran past and climbed back up to the hole in the elevator's roof. When the police and firemen opened the elevator, they found the dead sergeant, whose terror-stricken face was bruised and bloody. And on the floor in the corner sat the traumatized detective. Nearby, on the elevator floor, was a long, hairy, black leg of the spider, still twitching. The detective remained speechless for a while, then blurted out the incredible story. The authorities quickly hushed up the incident, but news of the story got out via the internet. And a version of the story also appeared in a Turkish newspaper, but was quickly denounced as an exaggeration. It was claimed that the giant spider was a deformed black widow spider that had been mutated by the radioactive fallout from the recent Chernobyl nuclear plant disaster. Later reports on the internet said Russian troops had destroyed the spider with a flamethrower and discovered the insect had laid eggs at the top of the lift shaft. So, thank you for listening to this spine-chilling story. Let me know what you think. Is this a true or false story? And let me know in the comment section below whether you enjoyed this story or whether you didn't. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And a massive shout out to all my current subscribers. Thank you for being here, because if it wasn't for you, this channel would not exist. So, I look forward to seeing you in my new videos.